Common values, common goals, common sense. The Common Sense Podcast with Semi Bird.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for being here. This is episode 28, I think. Common Sense with Semi Bird. Technical difficulties. You may have a blurry screen, and I apologize for that, but you know what? We're going to drive on. That's what you do. You drive on and adapt, overcome, improvise. We're here, and that's what counts. That's all that counts. And I'm happy that you guys are here. I'm going to turn around and try to get my screen so that everything fits. We're going to do this live together. No shame in the game. And this is what it's all about. Hang on, you guys. Hang on. Stay tight. We're good. Just when you don't want technical difficulties, you get technical difficulties. And I'm equal to the task. So that's okay. All right. Can you guys see me? I mean, I know it's blurry, but can you see me okay? In the box. Hopefully you guys are there. And so, again, we're live. This is Common Sense with Semi Bird, candidate for Washington State Governor. We have a screen to my left, which we have feeds from X, from Facebook, from Rumble, from YouTube. And we had technical difficulties, but we're here. We're here together. And for all of you tuning in, thank you so much. I am sorry if it's blurry for you. We'll do better next time, but that's all we can do. That's all we can do. And so I've got some questions that were sent in. We don't look at questions ahead of time. We get questions from several different feeds in our little question box. And so if you've got a question for us, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is put a question mark ahead and behind. Make sure I see it's a question because there's so many questions coming in and so much chatter coming in. But today's intent was to talk about economic reform. What is our platform? What are we going to do? And how are we going to get there? And as you guys know, I'm about solutions. I'm about actions. I'm about bringing change, the change that we need to make Washington State not just great again, but greater than it's ever been. We have to bring change to Washington State. And as many of you know, we've been under attack. They're coming after us with full guns. And I don't say that to be a victim. I'm not asking for pity. I'm not whining. It's bringing awareness, and it's having fellowship and discussion to what's obvious. And folks will say, why? Why are they doing this? Why do we have individuals who are politicians that'll badmouth you? Why do we have people that are party officials that'll badmouth you? And I don't have anything against anyone. I won't do it to other people. I don't do it to other candidates. And you see mainstream candidates, Republican candidates do it. I haven't been attacked by the Democrats yet, really. It's mainstream Republicans. And I have nothing against them either. But you have to ask yourself, why? Well, it's because I'm in the way. I don't take it personal, although it's very personal what they're doing. When you attack a person for their military service, you attack a veteran for their military service on Memorial Day, well, you can't help but try to get past it and look past it. But it is personal because a person's service to their nation is also their legacy to their children. And when you say that they're fake and they're a fraud and all these different things, and you're reading something, and I understand that, and we're going to speak to that. I was writing it up today, but we had so many calls. We still have the campaign, and my obligation is first to our constituents, our supporters, and to the mission, which is to win the primary and then win the general election, which we will. We're not going anywhere, but we're going to put out all the information, and we've already started. Many people have the information, have the documents, have the proof. Am I going to give that to someone who would attack with intent to slander, libel, vilify? No. But I will give it to anybody and everybody else. And we're going to put it out there to the public. And that will happen tomorrow, guaranteed. My intent was for it to happen today. But again, like technical difficulties tonight, we had difficulties today. We're driving on. Okay, we're going to get to questions. But economic development, as many of you know, we're going to start off on day one with the initiative to call for an audit of all state programs and offices. Why is that the cornerstone and foundation of economic development and growth for Washington State? Because if you can't get your house in order, if you don't know where the money is going, how the money is being spent in Washington, when we have an administration that has doubled the budget in 10 years to $71.5 billion, when you feel it, when you're buying goods and you're purchasing services, when you can see that I can't afford to continue to live in Washington State, when seniors on a fixed income cannot afford to live in Washington State, when young people have to have at least 4 people to live in an apartment, you realize I can't afford to live in Washington State. Small business owners cannot afford to do business in Washington State. My friends, this is a problem. We're overtaxing, we're overspending, and it has to stop. So we have to find out and bring accountability to where all the money is going. We have to see how all of our programs are functioning and bring accountability to that. We start with finding where the money is. We start by saying there must be a strategic plan for every department in our state. And I want all of you to understand that the governor, without even going to legislation, and I'm not talking about tyranny because I know how people spend things, it's within the authorities of the law to simply say, I hire the directors of these departments. And the governor has authority to direct the directors on how to conduct business. There is so much that we need to change, and there's so much I will change. The energy codes of Washington State, in more particular, March 15th of 2024, which are called the 2021 energy codes. I've spoken to this. It has cost building apartment units to double, housing construction to double, more than double. And we cannot have that because people cannot afford, again, to pay the repercussions of that. Overtaxing. We need to lower payroll taxes. Putting a minimum wage mandate out there, that doesn't help employees. In fact, it forces businesses to raise the cost of goods, the cost of services. And again, everyone else, even the employees, now must pay for more for goods and more for services. I hope you guys can understand this. We have been paying gas tax for decades. Look at our roads. Where's the money going? And so what we're going to do is we're going to lower taxes. We need to relook at L&I. We need to look at the B&O tax. We need to stop utilizing government to weaponize government against small business owners. And we need to incentivize. We need to deregulate. We need to lower taxes. We need to stimulate small business owner growth. And when small business owners are more profitable, they pay more, and the cost of services and goods go down. You see how this works out? Because the economy grows. And consider this, when we get our streets clean, because we're actually addressing homelessness, and we talked about this, and we actually have a solution. One of the only candidates, I believe, that has a comprehensive solution. Think about tourism. Instead of taxing our citizens, we maximize tourism in Washington State, bringing billions of dollars into Washington State in tourism. The money is coming from the outside, so we don't have to tax in the inside. And so we, the citizens of Washington State, benefit. All that money is coming into the economy. You guys, just see what we can do. I want to get to some questions. We're going to turn to the left. I'm going to scroll up just to see. And I'm looking, hello, everybody. It's good to see my friend Adam. It's good to see all of you guys here. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I see Deborah's got a question. Once governor, what is your plan to deport the criminal illegals that are sucking, well, I would just say, resources? I think Deborah is asking or bringing reality to the fact that when you support illegal immigration to Washington State. We are a very compassionate people. That's innate in our American heritage. We have compassion. But illegal immigration and the hundreds of millions of dollars that this administration continues to spend on illegal immigration is money that we should be spending on our infrastructure, mental health, our infrastructure for our roads and our systems and our ferries, and I can go on and on. But citizens who are suffering are veterans. But now we have illegal immigrants that this administration caters to. On day one, I will declare that we will no longer be a sanctuary state. But Deborah specifically asked, what am I going to do? Well, the governor's powers are defined. We must either pass an initiative or the governor propose legislation to undo the laws that have restricted our ability to cooperate with ICE, to allow the federal government, because it is their jobs and outside of our authority. It's the federal government's job to enforce federal laws, and it is their job to deport. That is their job, deportation. But that being said, we can certainly shut down our borders. We have a northern border, we have a southern border problem, we have a port border problem that no one talks about. We have a human trafficking problem. We have 3 cartels operating in Washington State. That's a problem because fentanyl is a problem. The number one killer of adults and our children, but of adults 18 to 45, we have an epidemic, which is a causal effect on mental health. My friends, we must take decisive action. That's where I start, by sending a signal clear and simple. We are no longer going to be a sanctuary state. Now, for state funding, no. That is where I can step in to say I will never and not approve funding for illegal immigration. Those resources will go to the citizens of Washington State. Washington first, Washington citizens first. And if you are an illegal immigrant in Washington State and you're committing crimes in Washington State, the Washington state government should bring down the full bearing of the law to hold them accountable and ensure that we notify ICE as to their presence and now that they are in the system, so that ICE can do their job. So, Deborah, I hope I answered your question. I appreciate your question, and I never want to sidestep a question like that, but we have to understand what our left and our right limits are. It's very important. So I'm going to scroll back down and see if there's any new questions, and then we're going to go ahead and move to what's written and what came in. Simi, let me see here what we have here. Simi is a threat to the establishment because he promises to do audits in every aspect of the system. Where's the tax money going? Well, that makes sense, you guys. And again, I don't want to presume the worst in people, but I'm not ignorant. I worked international intelligence and counterterrorism. I don't want to assume the worst, but there is a reality. Someone asked me today, Simi, why? Again, I start to tell you that. I've known people who go into federal office, into state office. Why do we have politicians who seem to cater more to the wealthy and the elite? Well, let's just consider this from a very pragmatic and a very common sense perspective. In our situation, think about what they've said from day one. Simi doesn't have the money. The Byrd campaign does not have the money to win. They are not a viable campaign because they don't have the millions of dollars that Dave Reichert has. This organization, the number one, or I don't say the number one of the largest establishment mainstream Republican activist groups in the state, said in an open letter, the big donors of Washington State have chosen Dave Reichert, not you. The best you can do is run for lieutenant governor and save your reputation. This was back before they set fire to my reputation, which again, that's okay. That is okay. Burn it down, do what you will. I'm not going anywhere. So they tried to get me out of the way. But when you give all that money to a candidate, you give all that money to politicians, and we've noticed how politicians get elected, and then they all of a sudden get amnesia, and they forget who they work for. We've seen that. And I'm not lumping all politicians into this. I'll leave that up to you to see what you've seen. Money talks too often, and then people fall to that. They're more concerned about preserving their position in office than they are about executing on the promises they made to their constituents when they were running to get into office. I've had brokers, as I've told you, offer hundreds of thousands of dollars for me to step aside and run for lieutenant governor, to get on that slate as lieutenant governor, before they proceeded to try to paint me as this villain. But here's what I would say. Our state would do better with me in office with an ankle bracelet on, bringing solutions with actions to save this state, than they would with more career politicians who cater to the rich and the elite. Having someone who has fallen, who has learned, who has tried to do better, who started with nothing and found the American dream, who's bringing hope and a real solution and a real plan with real policy that makes sense, then more of the same. We cannot continue, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the establishment, the money that they're bringing, and they're giving nothing in return. We can't do this any longer because we're at the precipice. The innocence of our children, our economy, small businesses leaving the state, people getting U-Hauls and leaving the state we can't continue. But I can tell you this, if we keep the faith and we stay strong, we will win this thing, you guys. Last week, I was in a conference call. We had a former Democrat PCO. Again, I've told you this story, the founder of Democrats for Diversity and Inclusion, who's campaigning for us in the Central District, who brought on this call an imam, the leader of a mosque, a Muslim brother. Now, I'm a Christian, you all know that, but we're all brothers, Washington State brothers, American brothers and sisters. He has sent his children back to Somalia, a war-torn country, because he feels they're safer based on what's going on in our schools right now. You don't have to be a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter whether you believe in a religion or not. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or how you choose to live your life, to understand that something is happening that is not good for our children in Washington State. You can look at the statistics to see that we have been paying billions of dollars into our public school system, and it's not producing what we expect from it. And that's me being very nice. We have to do better. So are we a threat? You're darn right we're a threat. Because I can't be bought. And I can't be threatened. And you can break into my military records illegally, or you call it legally, or you can do whatever you want to. I'm not going anywhere. So keep doing it. But what you're doing is not only showing who you are, not so much who I am, and the party, the Republican Party. Let me say this. My loyalty is to those delegates, those precinct committee officers, those community members who let their voices be heard, that we will not allow the steal in Spokane for the convention. And I don't believe you're going to allow the steal to happen through smear tactics and smear campaigns. That's up to you. That is up to you. We're going to keep fighting, and we're never going to ever profess that we're better than anybody else, because I'm not. I'm human. All right, back to questions. Let's get her done. I do know I talk too much. Okay, I owe you guys some time. Let's get down to the bottom. David, good seeing you. Good seeing you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm coming to Clark County. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of folks down there who's given me so much love all over the state, you guys. Oh, and Gina, my sister, Constitution 100%, because the Constitution represents everyone. Again, there's this notion out there that when you say Constitution, that's some kind of a right-wing, redneck, extremist something. It's not. It's America. It says that we all have civil rights. We all have equal rights. We all have worth. We should all have a seat at the table, no matter how much money you have. And we're not going to let these bullies, these elitists, these political assassins get their way and step on everyday, hardworking people who want to do better. That's what the Constitution gives us, a seat at the table. The Constitution is there to protect we the people from they, the establishment, they, the oligarchs, who would take us over, who would change a constitutional republic of the people, by the people and for the people. That's what the Constitution is for, to give us rights, to protect us from a government that would overstep us with mandates and vaccinations and lockdowns. That's what the Constitution is for. We just need public officials. We need a governor who will enforce the Constitution, who will protect our Second Amendment rights, who will declare our 10th Amendment state rights to say no when the federal government oversteps their rights or their authorities. My friends, this is our time. Don't give up, ever, because I will not give up, ever. The Constitution is the foundation of my governance. Self-governance is my way. Self-governance from a good man. I'll never forget it. And I will continue to grow in it. The Constitution matters. Indeed, it does. There's a lot of links that I'm seeing up, and I haven't clicked on it because I'm in the middle of a podcast, but that person's probably sharing with other people. And so this is free. Do what you will. All right, folks, thank you. Now I'm going to turn to here. Haven't seen these. This is from Sarah. Where do you stand on freedom to choose or decline medical protocols? No matter what emergency epidemic is emerging, how will you protect our freedom? Sarah, to speak to that, well, when they had the lockdowns, the shutdowns, I was against that. Because how does a state government determine which businesses are essential and non-essential? How is it that all the big box, big brands, and big corporations were deemed essential, but small business owners were deemed non-essential, and therefore they were put into ruin? My company was shut down. I was paying an expensive lease every day and paying for employees that PPP didn't cover. But the big box stores and big stores were open. Mandatory vaccination for employees. Essential employees that were indeed essential. Our ferry workers, our medical workers and practitioners, our law enforcement professionals. They had a choice: get the vaccine or be fired. How does that make sense when they are in fact essential to the job, essential to our safety, essential to patient care, to public safety, to public transportation, to our faith, to our children's education? But that was all shut down. To our economy. 50.7% of all people who work in this state are employed by small business owners. But those small businesses were shut down. How does that make sense? And then there's that Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution that says that government is there to protect and to maintain the individual rights of citizens. So this governor would have never overstepped that authority to suspend those statutes, to suspend public activity as they did. But yet you have someone running as a Republican for the office who wrote with another Republican in the Seattle Times supporting the mandates. You have that same person saying that he thought that Jay Inslee did a good job and how Jay Inslee responded to the mandates. And then you have Semi Bird again, who understood how wrong it was to force parents to mask their children when parents should have had a choice. A choice. And so I'm not saying, no, force parents to unmask their children. I'm saying give parents a choice as the primary stakeholders in their children's upbringing in their children's lives and in their children's education. Choice. Because we, public officials, should work for those who they serve. That's where I stand on that, Sarah. I demonstrated it. And they came after me. The teachers union came after me. And you all know that. And the mainstream Republicans came after me because I took a stand. And they said, they brought recall to Semi Bird and 2 others who stood up against mask choice. So if you were for masking children, then maybe you wouldn't vote for me. If you were for the mandates, the vaccinations, and the shutdowns, well, then maybe you wouldn't vote for me because I was against that. I was for choice. Your right to choose on that. If a president or Congress or a Senate at federal levels voted hand over our bodily sovereignty to who the WHO, the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, she said WEF, but I know what she means, or other world order entities. So I'm not going to even finish the sentence. I'm not. Sarah, I don't need to. Those global organizations have no authority or control over Washington State, because here's the beauty. Before even reading that question, I was over here listening to all of you, or I was answering a question. And where did I go? The 10th Amendment, states' rights. And what did I say? As governor of Washington State, I will not allow the federal government. So it's inferred that I will not allow some foreign entity or some globalist movement to exercise their authority over our states' rights, the 10th Amendment, or my obligation to serve the people of Washington State. So my sister, without reading the rest of that sentence, I think I've got you. No, I serve the people, and we have rights. We have a United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And I already read it, Article 1, Section 1. Well, I read it for my mind because I'm ready to serve. Tiffany, can you tell me what are your thoughts on the Washington, D.C. DOC paying for sex changes? Washington Department of Corrections, that's DOC, paying for sex changes for incarcerated individuals. I don't support it. If a person wants to live their life and change their sex, it's not my job. It's not my right to take away their rights to live their life how they choose to live their life. There I go. And that's what I said. But it is not my right as governor to make our taxpayers who do not support that to pay for that. And when you go to jail, you go to prison, why are we paying for you to have any kind of augmentation or plastic surgery or anything done? You are serving time for violating the rights of other citizens criminally. So no, you are there to serve your time. And I do support rehabilitation, but that's not part of it. So Tiffany, no, I do not support it. And that leads to what I'm looking at was your second question. And how do I feel that the Department of Corrections is being run? We need prison reform because right now we have a lack of rehabilitation. For those inmates or those who are incarcerated who have the mindset to do better, to change their lives, and they want to reset in their life and they want to start over, they want to do better. Oh, I'm the one who wants to give them a second chance. Or a third chance if necessary. I want to release them into a new environment with a trade or a certification so that they can become a taxpayer and so that they can contribute to society and not go back to the same environment in which got them into prison to begin with. That's what I want to do. Not create worse criminals through incarceration and perpetuate this criminal cycle through our corrections facilities. And by the way, while we're talking about correction facilities, my friends, our infrastructure of correctional facilities is lacking. I'll be writing a proposal to have regional correctional facilities. And I know you're thinking, well, where's the money going to come from, Semi? And I said, an audit. And we will save billions of dollars because right now we're not enforcing the laws. I can assure you that once we start, we just put police pursuit back on, right? That's happening. Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for the initiatives, and thank goodness for all of you who signed for it. We're going to start enforcing the laws again, and we're going to hold judges and prosecutors accountable. So we're going to need those facilities because we're going to make our streets safe again. And we're not doing that by just simply telling the chief of the state patrol to start doing the job that he already knows how to do, or every other law enforcement professional. They know how to do their job. We need to bring real solutions to help them do their job because we have the lowest amount of law enforcement professionals than any other state per capita. So we need to bring retention and recruitment solutions in. We need to use those funds that we are saving. We need to repeal cap and trade that's on the ballot through that initiative. And the $2 billion that is sitting there that we've collected from cap and trade, by the way, who would vote for that nonsense? To be continued. Through that climate commitment, that $2 billion, let's use some of that for recruiting, for law enforcement officials. Let's use some of that money to bring drone technology for apprehension of criminals. Surveillance, not to violate the rights of criminals, but surveillance strategically placed, only focused on license plates at that level on major traffic ways. So as soon as a trigger of that license plate of a stolen vehicle hits, boom, there it is. Pursuit, arrest, prosecution. Instead of suing car companies, Bob Ferguson, we're going to hold criminals accountable to the law. We're going to need those correction facilities, my friends. So something to think about. Thank you, Tiffany. Back over here. There's a lot of action over here. Again, I'm here to serve. I'm here to answer questions. This is live. We're doing this together. A lot of stuff going on, guys. I don't know. I'm just turning. I'm looking for question marks. And so here's something. Mentally ill or roam in the streets. Would you build more mental institutions? And the answer is yes, I would. Because we're in a mental health and addiction crisis. The root cause of homelessness for those living on the streets and dying on the streets is mental health and addiction. And I want you guys to understand something. So I'm a behavioral scientist. Organizational psychology is my profession. I'm a business consultant. Lean Six Sigma methodology, HPI, HPT, human performance technology. Helping organizations perform better, helping leaders become better leaders. That was my trade. But you learn in basic doctoral psychology coursework that addiction, especially opioid and long-term exposure to opioid addiction, has a mental health causality. Some byproducts, schizophrenia, and many other mental afflictions. So we have that now. We don't have the capacity currently, Eastern State Hospital, Western State Hospital. Western State Hospital, mental health facilities, that's what we're talking about, lost their federal certification, and with it, $53 million. That's a problem. We have two categories under the law. One is forensic, which is the criminally insane. This used to be the term. Criminally institutionalized, another one. And then the other ones who they turn themselves in because they know they can't take care of themselves. Their family does, or the courts do. And those folks are being put in long-term care with our grandparents in many cases. We don't have enough beds, approximately 1,250 beds. We need more infrastructure to take care of citizens. We don't have enough healthcare professionals, mental health care professionals in Washington State. Here's another solution. Last year, we passed a law, a compact, if you will, to give licensure reciprocity for nurses, saying if you come from Tupelo, Mississippi as a nurse, you come to Washington State, we're going to streamline to make sure that your license is accepted in Washington State because we're short on nurses. Well, guess what, folks? We're short on law enforcement. We're short on mental health professionals, and we're short on drug addiction treatment professionals. Let's extend that compact to several other professions that are essential to our state's needs. You see how we hit those solutions right there on one question? Are you ready for this kind of leadership in your government, in that office of governor? I'm not going in there to serve a party or rich folks who pay for me to get elected, or a lobbyist or special interest. I'm going in there to serve the people in common sense, to ensure our economy is enriched, to bring energy independence through small nuclear modular technology. Oh, yes, it's already happening right now in Richland, by the way. It's already happening. Fusion energy technology, it's already happening. Check out Chelan County. Things are happening. I'm aware. We're going to do it. We'll incentivize it. Being aware, solutions, my friends. I hope I answered your question. I'm just getting warmed up. You guys, this is what we represent. Again, I don't want anything. We don't need anything. We need to do better. Our senior citizens just rose up to be the number one demographic amongst the impoverished of our state. So you work your whole life, or you find yourself as a senior citizen on a fixed income on Social Security, and all you have is Medicare, Medicaid, and now you cannot live in Washington State. You cannot afford to live here. Or you're a young person who was raised here, but you can't afford to live here. That's wrong. We have to do better. And Kyle, I get you. It is. Depression, anxiety. What are the triggers to that? Just over-the-counter mental health, as I call it. Not the best terminology, but you know where I'm coming from. People who need help. My goodness, I could sure use a couch right now. Right? My wife has spent the last week in my office, and I'm sure the mainstream Republicans who are trying to set my family on fire, who set my life on fire because I'm in their way for politics, the blood sport, and they try to justify evil. Yeah, I could use a couch right now, but good luck trying to get an appointment with a psychologist. And by the way, guys, no, I haven't tried to set an appointment, so I don't want you to use any capacity to serve nonsense, because they would. There is nothing beyond them. But my friend, back to you. There is a need, which is why I gave a solution. A viable one, a real one, extending. We've already proven we can do it for nurses. Let's extend that for, well, again, essential staff that we need to support our economy. We have a lot to do in Washington State, and we need solutions with actions. Plain and simple, plain and simple. Our schools that are so focused, and this is not me taking a stance against someone who chooses to live a different lifestyle. Again, I've told you guys, and I go back, and conservatives brought a little hate on a conservative brother, because I said, look, I love everyone. One of my dearest friends is gay, many of my family probably, and I love them, and that is true, and I can love who I want to love. My point being is, our children are a whole nother story, and schools should be focused on education and academic excellence. Our schools, Article 9 of the Washington State Constitution says we have a paramount responsibility to provide a quality education. So why, therefore, are we not focused on providing a quality education? And I'm trying to be very pragmatic. I cited you the law, and so let me cite you more, because I saw a question. And by the way, that was the Falk program was the question. I just saw the last part. When we are paying $18,698, I'm sure it's more like $19,000 and more per student every year for their education, more than a private school. And yet our public school system is failing our students academically. And the statistics are, and I've said it many times, last time I checked, only 50.9% of all students met grade level standards in English and language arts, and only 37.7% of them met grade level standards in mathematics, and only 41 or 42.7% met grade level standards in science, and it was 42.7. And we're graduating them at a rate of 83%. So we're failing them academically, which is our primary function, and then we're successfully graduating them with a poor quality education, and we're paying billions of dollars for it. That makes no sense. But we continue to focus on things like LGBTQAI plus history, which was that recent bill that passed through that short 60-day session. That is not me bringing hate against LGBTQAI plus communities at all. I have professed to say I am here to protect all civil liberties of our citizens. I'm here to bring love to everyone, and I don't judge how people live their lifestyles. I'm here to protect the education of our children. That is where schools should be focused on, is what I'm saying. And never discrimination. Civil rights for all citizens of all ages is what we all support. But let's focus on educating our children. It's their future of our society. I saw that question and I had to answer it because I told you about that imam who sent his kids back to Somalia because of what he was seeing is happening in our schools. And when parents of all faiths, of all communities feel that our school system is failing our children, then we have to wake up to it and say, something is wrong. Why is this 44% of our budget, which is $71.5 billion? Do the math. Our public education is 44% of $71.5 billion. That's a fact. It's not personal. That's all I'm saying. We can do better. We can do better. And Julian asks, what is my opinion on President Trump's persecution? That's Julian's words. Here's what I say to that, and I've said this publicly. I said it to Fox 13. I've said it on King 5, and I'll say it to anybody who asks. When you can take a former president and you can go back, something I know a little bit about, in their lives to weaponize things against them, civilly, criminally, take a misdemeanor, make it into a felony. Do things, have a judge read their interpretation of the law to a jury to ensure an outcome. Justice is supposed to be blind and balanced. That is that scales and the blindfold image that we should have. If you can do this to a wealthy former president, no one is safe in America. That is not me taking sides. I think everybody knows I'm voting for President Trump. This primary, we've already voted for President Trump. We're voting for President Trump. Everybody knows that. I've said that to everybody. You have President Biden, you have President Trump. I know what it's been like over this last few years. We can't continue. Open borders, energy crisis, we see what's happening. More wars, economic despair. We cannot continue. We saw what it was before. Closed border, economic prosperity, energy independence. I want that. So I'm voting for it. For me, it's a simple choice. I'm speaking as a citizen. Plain and simple. Julianne, you want to talk about Julianne? I apologize. Julianne, forgive me. I know what persecution is like. You're seeing it on me right now. You're seeing it on me right now. And my opinion was not rendered based on what's happening to me. I separated it out, and I can give you more examples on what they did. Victimless crimes or charges. You go after a person because they apply for a loan and they assess the value of their properties, and the bank says that's good enough for us, and they give you the money, and then you pay the loan off with the interest, and they say, thank you, we're here if you want more, but then you try to sue the person and it makes no sense. It's gone too far, all at the time when he is running for an office against an establishment candidate. How convenient is that? It's not my opinion. It's not. I'm not a Trumper, as they say. I'm not a mega MAGA, ultra mega MAGA, misdemeanor, whatever. It's common sense. This is common sense with Semi Bird, not biased, unobjective, subjective with Semi Bird. Everybody has their own opinion. To me, that's common sense. So, let's see here. We have here literal train wreck. We're talking about money. I'm looking at support individuals, community. Boy, Jennifer, you got a lot of stuff here packed in here. Rentals that could be working for families and will never, ever be able to live alone. Yeah, I hope we're saying that with economic revitalization. We don't have enough houses or rental units in the market. So we have a housing crisis. We make the cost to build houses and rental units and apartment units unbearable. We double the price through these climate change like energy codes. And then we bring programs like LEED into the mix. And we make regulations. We come up with these regulations that push builders and developers to, you have to go this way in order to qualify, in order to do business and stay in business, which is going this way towards climate change, energy. You see what I'm saying? You have to do this in order to be able to survive, all to support their ideology, and all at the cost of affordable housing in Washington state where no one can afford to live here. That makes no sense. We had energy efficient housing and apartments back in 2008. All they have done was make it more unaffordable. We have other units. We have restrictions on using vacation rentals. I mean, there's all kinds of options that we can open up. And no, I won't ever get into municipal or county regulations. But can we partner with counties and municipalities to consider how they deem which land can be used for manufacturing and residential and business? Yeah, I think we could. And David was mentioning how minority voters are relooking and revisiting who they vote for. My friends, it's the same thing with voter ID. You say black folks aren't going to get an ID to vote. There's nothing wrong with us. Stop insulting us with those racist statements. Minority voters, minority business owners get hit just as bad as any other race business owner. We're tired of the nonsense as well as anybody else. All Americans, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, all Americans are fed up with how poorly our state and our nation is being run. And it's up to us to set aside differences, to set aside labels, and actually step up and do something about it. But here's the thing. Our campaign is getting so much support from different demographics, mainly on the west side of the state. King County, Snohomish County, Pierce County, we're getting that support from those demographics. And the establishment, that mainstream establishment is seeing it. And they see the threat that we are. And so they, again, have to take me out. They have to remove me from the picture. They have to get me off the ballot. And the way they do that is to, burn me down. Again, that public opinion, that public lynching, that same thing they did to Supreme Court Justice Thomas. The same thing, Judge Kavanaugh. It's the same thing. Anything and everything they can do. Why are they digging dirt instead of talking about solutions? Why are they afraid to debate? Get on the stage and talk policy, talk solutions. Why? It makes no sense. Well, it makes sense to me. We should be talking about solutions. We should be, instead of tearing each other down. And if you're a Republican viewing this, you call yourself a Republican, can we just get real and common sense and be honest for a second? This Saul Alinsky rules for radical model that the mainstream Republicans are using to try to set fire, to me, you're setting fire to what you would call a party. That's what you're doing. When you have 72% of the base, 72% of those delegates, the largest delegation in the history of this party ever, 72% supermajority, and you think you can wipe them away and dismiss their voices like they're nothing by setting their candidate on fire. You think you can do that and take steps, however you define it. It doesn't go over well. People are not dumb. They see, we see, they know, we know. It's not playing well. So if I get hit from an electric bus because I didn't hear it, as I've said before, and you think your mainstream liberal candidate running as a Republican can get elected, you're wrong. You have already set fire to something. Not me. Because all I have brought is kindness, respect, and solutions. I've been talking about policies and solutions from day one. And I've never called the other gentleman a name except gentleman. I've only talked about the differences between us two. But never called names. But yet I've received calm man, snake oil salesman, a thief versus a cop, and all of these other things. That is the difference. It wasn't I who struck the match and placed it. And I'm proud to be someone who brings value to our citizens, who talks about solutions, who brings hope instead of fear. We can do better, Washington. We have to do better because we can't afford to mess this up. We can't afford to mess it up. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom because I was going up to see if I missed anything. I'm looking for question marks. I'm going to come back over here. And thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I mean, I try to bring real solutions. I really do. I said it before, you guys. I'm not better than anyone. I want nothing from anyone. There is so much love and passion behind our campaign and in all of you who are giving of themselves. This is a movement. This is nothing that about our campaign or our positions or our solutions. How cool is it when I can talk about loving everyone? Who does that? I do. And I have from day one. It's recorded. I'm on the record. There's nothing new to that. There's nothing new about me. I'm not renewed in that. I talk about love of all religions, all faiths, all choices. There's nothing new to that. Because guess what? When you talk about real people, we don't judge everyone so harshly as these political pundits and these elitists do. They're the ones who are trying to divide us. They're the ones who say race and gender and ideology, and we must hate each other, and we must look for the dirt on one another. And they bring the dirt and the dirt and the dirt and the division and the division and the division. Be very leery and very cautious of these individuals. But cling to those who bring love and unity and talk about solutions and uniting around solutions to bring value to our children and our economy and prosperity. That's what we should be talking about. And I've said it before, I don't care who you are. And so Alberto just said, I'm already reading it. I just looked at it. Alberto, Article 1, Section 24. That's Washington State's version of the Second Amendment. And Article 1, Section 24 gives us more protections under the Second Amendment than the Second Amendment gives us. It's unique. And so we'll see what Alberto says before I jump to it. But I'm already there. He says, which has been ignored, trampled over by the current governor. True. What will Semi Bird do to restore our rights? I got you. We have a legal precedent right now from Judge Benavides from California. We're in the Ninth Circuit. Judge Benavides in California had a Supreme Court mag capacity ban law or lawsuit kicked back to him, and he rendered it unconstitutional. The Silent Majority Foundation of Washington State brought a case against Bob Ferguson and this illegal law and Jay Inslee on the magazine capacity ban. By the way, we're in the Ninth Circuit, I think I said that, and got an injunction. And for about 88 minutes, we were free to have that portion of our constitutional right restored until Bob Ferguson's office ran to the Supreme Court, got a commissioner to put a stay on it, and then the Supreme Court once again violated our Second Amendment rights, Article 1, then Section 24 of our Constitution, and made it permanent. So I, as governor, now have a legal precedent to move forward and to bring action to get it to the Supreme Court, which I will. I'll first try to take it through our legislation. But if they don't, I will take it to the Supreme Court through legal action because it's a violation of the Constitution, and I will not abide by any law that violates the constitutional rights of our citizens, period. Alberto, there's the answer to that. So there's that. We'll go back over here, but I've been over there. How do you feel about pride flags on government property? The city of Burien put it up. That's up to the citizens of Burien. But for Washington State, United States flag and the state flag of our state are the flags should be flown at the state capitol. Period. Period. Again, that's not me prejudicing against pride or LGBTQAI plus individuals, because I don't prejudice against anyone. But what about every other citizen in this nation, every other group, the state, every other group in this state? We must represent everyone. We must be constitutional. We must represent all. And there's no greater representation than the flag of the United States of America, first and foremost, and then our state flag that represents the history and heritage of Washington State. Plain and simple. And when I see that flag with our seal, to me, that's the Washington State Constitution. That's plain and simple for me. So I do appreciate that, Dan. And again, I want to be very careful. My friends, I don't prejudice against anyone. I can say that over and over and over again. I will take stances, by the way, to my conservative friends that you may not like, because if it violates the rights of someone else, it's the Constitution that determines my actions, period. Whether I like it or you like it, I'm sure, I know I'm going to find myself in that position where I have to take an action that I don't like, but it's in alignment with the United States Constitution or the Washington State Constitution, and I have an obligation to the law under Article 3, I believe it's Section 6, but also the Constitution of our state and our nation. That is the beauty of the Constitution. No matter what I want to do, that must be as it says, Section 2, the supreme law of the land. It's got to be. I can't be a tyrant. Whether you have a tyrant with a D behind their name or a tyrant with an R, a tyrant is a tyrant nonetheless. The people have the power in Washington State and in our nation. It's a constitutional republic. All people. Sharon, as a number of states have already done, will you sign legislature that will not comply with the WHO and the WEF? Yes. They don't regulate Washington State, the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. They don't run our state. As governor, as the chief executive officer of Washington State, I don't run our state. I'll say that again. As governor of Washington State, which is the chief executive officer of Washington State, I don't run Washington State. The citizens, the people of Washington run Washington State. I simply manage it, administer it, execute on the will of the people. That's self-governance. That is what a constitutional republic is. I work for you. The fact that I'm here talking to you and answering questions is me applying for a job to you, my interview panel. That's how it's supposed to work, and that's how it will work if you elect me as your governor. There's a change coming to Washington. It's up to you whether you want to bring it forward. I will honor the oath. I will honor the Constitution. And I will honor the office. Plain and simple. I haven't always done it right, my friends, in life, but I have always strived to do better. And I think that is what it's all about. So as I gave extra time because I was running late today, I owed you that. It was the right thing to do. I want to leave you with a few things. I'm just looking to the left just to make sure I don't miss anything. And thank you, Gabby. I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate you supporting me. I really do. And all of you who support me, and all of you who still keep your mind open to truth, and all of you who bring grace. Thank you. There is nothing we can't accomplish if we're willing to work together. We have to not let others bring that darkness to cloud what we know to be right, to cloud what we want, what we know in our hearts to be the right way and the right direction. The right way and the right direction is to focus on solutions with actions that'll bring real substantive change to protect our children, to bring public safety, to make our businesses thrive and grow, to lower taxes, and in fact bring tax relief to ensure that we're not pricing seniors and small businesses out of our state, to reel back those ridiculous energy codes, to actually bring tourism and revitalize our community, to clean up our streets, to bring true compassion and remedy mental health and addiction, and address the homeless crisis that we have, to support the men and women of law enforcement by bringing resources, technology, and pledge our support to them to incentivize young folks to want a career in law enforcement and mental health and nursing. There's so much we can do to bring trades back. We need more trade schools in Washington State, and it should start in middle school in Washington State, to bring a focus of academic excellence to our public school system and bring accountability to say we're not going to continue to fund failure in our public school system. This is not the place for your personal agenda. This is not the place to separate children from their families or their parents. Do your jobs. Educate our children. Give them a future. And you will not have a problem being funded and growing. We need more of those STEM programs. We need more of those excellence programs, those gifted student programs. We don't need you shutting those down. We need opening them up because we have so many more students that are opening their minds. And we don't need people telling people of color that there's something wrong with them, because there's not. There's everything right in them like there is with any other child. And we need to stop funding this mindset and paying people in marginalized communities that you create by paying people enough money to keep them poor for the rest of their lives and for generations. That system of subjugating people and creating poverty classes and that gap widening, that ends. We're going to start lifting people up. We're going to bring rehabilitation to our prison system, and we're not going to turn our backs on people who have made mistakes in their life. We're not going to put a tattoo on them so that they can never get a job again. We're going to say, we value you. You have worth in our state, in our community, and we're not going to give up on you. We're not elitist. We're Americans. We're Washingtonians. That's what we are. We love one another. Human decency and civility will come back to Washington State because you'll have a leader. And when I say leader, I mean a servant leader who will serve you, who will represent you, and who will not let you down. So if you're willing to take a chance in us, well, I'll tell you what, my wife and I and my children, we're not going to give up. They've tried to remove us. We're not going anywhere. I asked you to go to birdforgovernor.com, birdforgovernor.com. Give what you can, because that'll be enough. Give what you can, because that will be enough. We will win the primary election, and that general, you will find, will be easier than you would have ever thought it would be. I'm not being neglectful in this. I'm not just being hopeful in this. I have faith. I have faith. I have faith in you and myself and that which brought me to this mission. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. God bless you all. And we'll see you next week. We're going to be on the west side, as we are every week. We're going to be in Gig Harbor this Saturday. We're going to be on the coast, Ocean Shores. We're going to be in so many places. I don't even know where we're going to be, but we're going to be over there. Tune in. Go to our events page. Go to Bird for Governor. We have an events page. So tune in. Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere because we're campaigning to restore our state. We'll make Washington State greater than it ever was. Have hope. Have faith. We'll see you next week.